Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where today we're going to take a look at this extraordinary looking killer Sudoku. So a couple of weeks ago on a channel, we featured a puzzle by a German puzzle creator called Christoph Seeliger, and it was an incredible killer Sudoku with a very, very neat break-in. And that video is currently sitting at about 600,000 views, so it's proved incredibly popular. Now, I wrote to Christoph to tell him about the video, and he suggested we might like to try this puzzle, which is a creation that appears on the German Logic Masters site. And he then wrote to me a few hours later and said, "Don't try this puzzle, it's far too hard for a video." but I'd already at that point typed it into our software, so I'm going to have a go at it, because it takes me a long time to create the cages with all of these different things. Now you can see that rather than have numbers in this killer Sudoku, we've just got an indication as to whether a number is odd or even. Over odd, even obviously, and that's it. And apparently this is solvable. So I'm looking forward to trying it. If you want to have a go before you watch me flounder through it, then do click on the link under the video. That'll take you to our webpage, where you should see something very like what I'm seeing now and be able to have a go yourselves. So, bearing in mind this might be a long video if the puzzle is very difficult, I am going to start. And right, where am I going to start? Well, I suppose I can see there's a little bit of a restriction up here, because we've got 4 two-digit numbers here. These 4 cages all have 2 digits each, so they must all be at least 10, so the minimum for those squares would be 40. So that square must be 5 or less, because obviously in a 3x3 block in a killer Sudoku, or indeed any Sudoku, we know there'll be the numbers from 1 to 9 in the yellow cells here. If you add up all of the numbers from 1 to 9, you get 45. So I know these cells sum to 45. In fact, look, we can do better than that. These cells are both odd. So the minimum value for these 2 cells is 11 each. That would be 22. And the minimum value for these 2 cells would be 12 each. That's 24. So, oh, hang on, I have made a mistake. Not a good sign already. 24 and 22 is obviously 46, which will make that cell -1. Oh goodness me, so E can be 0. I hadn't thought of that. So I'm hoping that doesn't mean in this row here, this E could be 0. So could the, is it possible for that cage to add up to 9, for example? If this was 0, 9, that would be very, very mean. I'm going to assume that's not right. But, okay, so if these could be, so the minimum value here, therefore, would be 22 plus 20, which would be 42. That would make that square of 3. And then any of these cages could be 2 greater, but only one of them could be 2 greater, and that would make that a 1. Wow. Now this, now we can get, look, this is an odd number, so it must be a minimum of 11, so this can never be a 1, because that would mean that square has to be a 10. So that's a 3. And therefore this must be an 8, because it must get to 2 digits, and it must be an odd number. So if I put a 6 here, I don't get high enough. So we are off and running. We have got some digits in the grid. It's only taken 4 minutes to do that. Now let's look at this one then. So if we assume this E has to be a 2, this is an odd number, so this is either 21 or 23. Well, it's not 23 because there's an 8 in the block, and the only way of making 23 in 3 cells would be 6, 8 and 9. So this adds to 21 without using an 8, so that is 5, 7 and 9. And that is useful or isn't useful. That is useful, because now, where do we put the 1 in this box? We can't put it in the 11 cages, obviously, so it must be in one of those positions. Now, if it's in one of these two squares, it will be accompanied by a 9, and that will break here. And if it's here, that will force a 9 there, so it can't. The only square it can go into is that one, and therefore that is a 9. We know from this 3 that all of these cages have to be the absolute minimum. So these two definitely add up to 10, these two definitely add up to 11. Now, yeah, okay, so now if we look, these two add up to 11. They can't be 2, 9, and neither of them could be 3, 8, because there's already a 3 and an 8 in the row. So these yellow squares in some order are 4, 7 and 5, 6. So those two squares are 2 and 8. These squares are 3, 4 and 6, I think. 4 and 6. This is an OE cage, so this could be 30. If it was 30, those squares add up to 13. These would have to add up to 17. That is possible. That could be a 9, that could be an 8. So this could add up to 30, or it's a lot lower. So it could be a minimum of 10. Well, it can't be 10 because we've already got 13. So it's quite restricted. If this does start with a 1, this is quite a restricted cage. We know, look, there's 9s here, so there's a 9 in one of those squares. And there's 8s in one of those squares. Now, this 3 means there's a 3 in one of those positions. Now that's rather lovely, because we can use parity, can we, to make more progress. So there's now 3 odd digits here, 4 odd digits, given that we know the position of the 3, and we know that this cage has to be an even number. Given that it contains an odd number already, the only way I can get this cage to contain an even number is by including another odd number in it. But we've already got 4 of the odd numbers accounted for, so there must be a 1 in this cage. And now, that's so clever. That's so clever. So now this is a 2-digit number. So the only only number we can add to this to get as high as 10 is a 6. So somewhat incredibly, we can resolve that this cage is a 1, 3 and a 6. That is extraordinary. So this must be 2 and 4. Now, we can't have a 6 up there, so we can't have a 5 down there. We can't have a 4 down here, so we can't have a 7 up there. So we get a bit more, yeah, we get a bit more restriction. So now, over here, we need 2, 8 and 7. Down here, we need 1, 5 and 9. Now, can we, so this still could be 9 and 8. But this cage is an EO cage, so this is 21 or 23 again, it's like that one. So this can't contain a 2, and that can't be a 1, otherwise we can't get as high as 21. Now, no, this could still be 7, 5, 9. I was wondering whether if I could lock the 9 in here, or the 8, then I could know that this wasn't a 30 cage. Let's have a look at this one. This is an 00 cage, so this can't be a 30 cage because it's already got these two are adding up to 6. So this is either 11, 13, 15, 17 or 19. Now, it can't be 11 because we've already got a 4 in the cage. And if it was 11, this would have to be 1, 2, 3, 5. If it's 13, this would have, these two squares would have to add up to 7 without using 2, 5 or 3, 4. So they have to be 1, 6. Which is not possible. So this isn't 13 either. So if this could 15 work? 15 would require these two to add up to 9. That could be 1 and 8. That does work. But it could only be 1 and 8. So there's only one way of doing that. If this is 17, these two have to add up to 11 without using 2, 9, without using 4, 7, without using 5, 6. So this would have to be 3, 8, and it can't be. So I don't, unless I've missed something there, I don't think that's possible. I don't think, no, it's not. So that was 17. So what about 19 then? 19 would require these two to add up to 13 without using 4, 9 or 6, 7. It would have to be 5, 8. That is possible. So this is always 8. And this can never be 9. And as this is 8, oh well, we can see that's going to be a 7. That's going to be a 2. So now we know this is, this can't be a 9. We know this is a total that begins with a 1. And we've already got accounted for 15. So this can't be a 5, otherwise it would be 20, and it would have to start with an even digit. So that's a 1, that's a 5, that's a 9. And now 7, 9 here, and we know this must add up to 21 therefore, so that must be a 5. That means there's a 5 down there. Now this 5 is obviously an odd number. It's being added to an even number and another even number. So these yellow squares now add to an odd number. So these two squares add to an even number, because the whole box is obviously odd. No, I don't see what I can do with that. 12 minutes into the video and I've entered 11 digits. Oh my goodness, this is going to be this. Oh, it's a brilliant puzzle though. It's brilliant. Now, focus. Right. Right, this box, look, we've got the maximum value these 4 cages could have. They're a single odd digit, so they could all be 9. If they were all 9, 4 9s are 36. That would make this square a 9. Now that's absolutely false, therefore, because these cannot get bigger. So the absolute minimum value for this is 9, and therefore it is 9. And these all add up to 9 individually. And I don't really see how to restrict that much further. This is a 2-digit odd number, so this is an even digit. 2, 4, 6, or 8. We've got an even digit plus, well, plus another even digit, so that these two are even together. This is odd, so these two squares are even, and they're part of an even cage, so these two squares are even. These are odd, so we're now on an odd number, so these two are even. Therefore, that square is an odd number. But that is another of these big cages, isn't it? This is 21 or 23 again. And this is an odd number, so this can't be 1 or 3. It's got to be 5, 7, or 9. 7, 9. So this is odd, this is odd, this is odd. So altogether they are odd, so these two are even. how do I make progress? One thing. If this doesn't contain a 9, then it would have to be 21, and it would have to be 6, 7 and 8. That's the only way of getting to 21 without using a 9. And it can't be 6, 7 and 8 because that square has to be a 6 or a 7. So there is a 9 in this cage. And obviously it's not there because of that 9. Now, if this was the 9, you can see that forces this square to be a 5 or a 7. So if this is a 9, the maximum this could add to would be 21. It would have to be 5, 7 and 9. That's so brilliant. And it breaks. Look, that would break this box because that would remove the possibility. If this is 5, 7, 9, this can't be 5, 6 and it can't be 4, 7. Both options are eliminated. So this square is not 9 either. That's a 9. And for the same reasons, this can't be 9, 5, 7. So this is either 9, 6, 8 or 29, 4, 8 would also work. Okay. Right, so there's always an 8 in one of those squares. So that square is a 2, that is an 8. That means there's an 8 over there. And we don't yet know, the 4 or the 6 are going to disambiguate this, but I don't know how to do that yet. 9's here, and this 9 means there's a 9 in one of those two squares. And right, okay, so this could be another of these massive, this could be 30, there's a 1 here. That's gorgeous, look at that, there's a 1 and a 3. So the 1 and the 3 are pushed into this 00 box. Now 1 plus 3 plus 9 is 12 and would leave 2 digits left, and we can't get to 30 therefore. So this, wow, actually this has to be 19 because it's got a 9 in it. And the minimum I can make 4 cells add up to, so putting the 9 to one side, I'd have 4 cells left. The minimum I could make those add up to would be 10, because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. So this box is in fact 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. That's not 9. This isn't, these aren't 9. This one is not 1 or 3. Therefore this is not 4, 8. This is 6 and 8. This must be 5 and 7. The 6 and the 8 resolves that this is 7, 4. This is 5 and 6. 4, 2. This becomes a 1 or a 3, look. 2, 6. There's a 6 in one of those squares because of these 6's interacting. 2, 4, 9 here. 1, 3, 5. Where can 5 go? In the middle, this column here. There's a 5 there. It can only go in that square. It's brilliant. Now look at this square. This square cannot be 6 and it cannot be 8 because then it would be a 2-digit number, and we know it's a single digit. So that is not 6 or 8. That means those two squares form a 6-8 pair. This square must be 2 or 4, which makes sense because that's forming a pair with that one. That one must be 1 or 3. What a puzzle. Right. Not sure where to go now. This huge area in the middle, but really see how to use that. Right, stop mumbling, start thinking. Right, we've got an EE box, so this must begin with a 2. So the minimum this could be would be 20, the maximum would be 28, and it's already got 12 in it from this 5 and this 7. So this can't be 28 because that would make these have to be 16, and there's already a 9 there. And that rules out the possibility of 7 and 9, obviously. So it's not 28. Could it be 26? That would make these two have to be 14. No, because that's 5, 9 ruled out. And if we put 6 and 8 into these two squares, which is the only other way of making 14, we'd have 3 cells in the row that would all need to be the numbers 6 and 8. That's clearly not possible. So 26 doesn't work. 24, these two would have to add up to 12 without using 3, 9 or 5, 7. So these would have to be 4 and 8. That is possible. Okay, well I suppose we needed one of them to work. Let's hope the other two don't. So 5, 7, if this was 22, these would have to add up to 10 without being 1, 9, without being 3, 7. 2, 8 would work. That would make that a 2. But 4, 6 would also... 4, 6 would work. Bother. Okay, so the only other option then is that this adds up to 20. With 5, 7 here, these two would have to add up to 8 without using 3, 5 or 1, 7. They would have to be 2 and 6, which also is possible. Bobbins. But we've now got 4 cells which can only contain even digits in this row. So these are all even digits. This one can't be a 2 and 4 therefore, and these two squares must be odd. So it must be, it can't be 9, so that one can't be 1, that one can't be 5 or 7, so this one has to, that square must be a 6 or an 8. This one can't be a 7 either because there's a 2 there. Yes, 1, 3 pair in the row. That one has to be a 5. So that one must be a 4. One 3 pair in this row as well, or this box, so those ones can't be 1 and 3. There's a 4 there, so that one can't be a 4. Six, 8 pair in this row. Now where can a 1 go in this row? It can't go here because that would force an 8 into this square, which clashes with that one. So there is a 1 in this box. And what else can we tell from this? So there is a 1 in this box. But we've got 3 even digits already accounted for here. So in order to keep this as an odd number, we can't accompany this 1 with 2 even digits. So this must be 2 odd digits along with this 1. Therefore, this bottom row is going to have to contain the other even digit. Just wondering if we can do some restrictions based off that. So these two, if if we look along here, this always contained a 6 or an 8, no matter how we arranged it. So this is never 2, 4. Therefore that one must be a 2 or a 4. And there's a 6 or an 8 here, which means there's a 6 or an 8 down here. Ah, sorry, there's a 5 there as well, so I get a 7 and a 5 there. That forces a 5 down here. This O and E, so this could be a minimum of 10 or a maximum of 19. But we know it also has a 6 or an 8 in it. So it can never have a 9 in it. There's no way there can be a 9 down here. If there's a 9 down here, we get to 14, and we have to add a 6 or an 8 to that, which would break the 20 threshold. So there is a 9 in here. So this is one, and that gives us a 2 here, and a 4 here. That means that's a 9. These are 10. So there must be a 3 or a 7 accompanying this. This 2 is forcing that square to be a 2. Look, in this box there's only one place the 2 can go. So 2s are a bit restricted over here. Where can a 1 go in this column? It can't go here, and it can't go here because of this 8. So the 1 is in one of those squares. And it can't go here, because if it did, if this was a 1, this is a 2-digit total, that would force a 9 here, which breaks. So there is a 1 in one of those 2 squares. Now, oh, that's so cool. Now, we can place the 2. This has to be the 2, because look, now, this is an even number, this is an even number, this is an odd number, so these 2 squares must sum to an even number. And we've already got a 1 in one of them. So the other number must be an odd number. It cannot be a 2. Therefore, that square is a 2. Now there's a 2 here, and that's a 7. Therefore, yes, 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 yes. Now this has definitely got a 5 and a 7 in here. They add to 12. I can't put an 8 down here because that will get me to 20. So that's the 8. Oh. And therefore that's 8. That's 6. This must be a 6. Therefore that's a 3. That's a 1. That's a 3. That's a 1. And are we starting to find a way through this puzzle? What a puzzle. 4. Oh, that must be a 4, that one. 3, 6. 5, 7. So this is 5, 7, 6. This is 1, 9. And, what is it? 1, 9, 3? Yes. 12, 13. That is working. And okay, so that one must be an 8. just to complete the column. 8, 8, 8. So there's an 8 in one of these two squares. This guy is some sort of, he is the most brilliant puzzle setter. Look at this. That can't be an 8. Can you see why? It's because if we put an 8 here, that square can't be an 8, obviously. But look, this is all part of this big shape. So if I put an 8 here, I can't repeat the 8 in the shape. So this 8 actually sees that one and that one. So that is not an 8. Therefore, that's an 8, that's a 6. It's just stunning. Now, these two had to add up to an even number. And we've already used 5, 7 and 9 in the column, so this must be 1, 3, these two squares, therefore, because we locked the 1 in. Therefore, that one's a 6 up there, that's a 3. This must be 6, 7, 9. There's a 6, 9 there, so that's 7. This is 6 and 9. That must be a 4. And this is an even number, and that's an odd number, so this is an odd square. Look, well, I can't restrict that much, but now where does the 6 go in the central area? This 6 sees those squares through the shape it's in, look, and that one has to be an odd number, so that's not a 6, so the 6 is in one of those squares, where it accompanies an 8. So that's 14 taken care of, and this is an odd number, so I need to put an odd number in one of these squares. Can't put 5 in, can't put 7 or 9 because that's going to get too high. This must begin with a 1, so there must be a 1 or a 3 in this. This must be a 1, 3, 1, 3, 6 triple. So that square's a 9. That's not a 6. That's not a 9 because there's a 9 down there already. This square must be a 2 or a 4. And the reason for that is that everything else is accounted for. We've got 1, 3, 6 triple, 5, 7 double. So this must be a 2, 4, and there's a 2 there. So that's a 4, that's a 2, that's a 4. That's a 4, that's a 2. That's a 2. Simple Sudoku. Haven't said that much in this puzzle. That 1 there sees that square. The 1 actually sees that 1 and that 3 as well. Oh, sorry, that 3 and that 1. Let's make sure I do it the right way around. That forces the 6 here. That means that's a 6. And this is a 9. Must be a 9 in one of these two squares. These two squares must be 4 and 7. And there's a 4 here. Yes, 4, 7. These two over here, therefore, must be 3 and 7. That's also resolved. Put 7 and 3 into that order. This square here must be 5. Therefore, that one's not 5. I think we're so close to cracking this. The 6 sees that square. I really hope. I don't feel like I've butchered this. It felt like a very, very hard puzzle. Now, let's. How are we going to resolve this? This must be 1, 3, and 9. This one can't be a 1, so that must be a 3 or a 9. That one can't be a 3. That's a 1 or a 9. It's not. Maybe this shape. So this shape must begin with a 3. So So 3, 7 and 2 is 12, plus 15 is 20. Oh, that's brilliant. So look at this final piece. These cells here add to 27. So we need to get above the 30 threshold. So we can't put a 1 in here, otherwise we'll only be on 28. This has to be 9. Oh, it's just stunning. Absolutely stunning. Right, so let's get rid of the 3's here. This 3 sees that square. 3, 1, that means that's 6, that's 1. 5, 7, 6. Now that one, if I haven't made an error, must be 7. That must be 5. Oh, please be right. Yes. Wow. Wow. Probably one of our longest videos, one of our hardest puzzles, but also one of the very best puzzles we've ever covered on the channel. Christoph, thank you very much for recommending it. I think, no, I do think it was worth a video. I hope you did too. If you enjoyed it, please do subscribe. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back soon with another edition, a shorter edition of Cracking the Cryptic.